every other message in the TDM Business Telegram group at the minute is talking about AI chatting. So me and Liam sat down and discussed the topic. A lot of you also want to know whether we're using AI chatting or not in our chatting service. So stay tuned to find out.
So, Chad, are we going to sack everyone and opt for AI chatting or what?
No, we're not, because all of the AI that we've tested is absolutely horrifically bad.
You know, the other day I actually think I messaged one of these like AI creators that was supposedly advocating for his AI chat service that he has. So I subscribed to the model and sent it a message. And I started talking about fetish, and it came back with like, sorry, I don't understand, what do you mean? And it starts to just give away that it doesn't understand, asking me to repeat in different contexts and stuff. And it's like, do we really think that any subscriber subscribing to a dominatrix is going to believe if the dominatrix then comes back and not understanding?
No fucking way. We're not even at a point where AI chatting software can really perform well on regular vanilla submissive accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that it could ever handle fetish accounts is so far away.
It's not.
I mean, I say so far away. It might be 6 months. It might be 12 months.
It's
but
not
in the grand
even
scheme of things, it's a long time.
The text aspect is, for the most part, good. Like, the text can be good. Cupid's a great example of that. Like, there is good AI software for holding basic conversations, but the art of selecting content to pair with a description that you've interpreted through code of what someone said. So you take an ideology from someone's message, decide that that relates to certain content, watch the content, pick out the video, pair it with a message that relates not only to the video, but to the creator's branding, the person's request, and the context of the conversation, and actually deliver that correctly. We're absolutely miles away.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. I do believe that it will be there, but it's just not going to be in the foreseeable.
I don't even think it's 6 months, and I'm a massive advocate for it. Like it will massively improve our margins.
Of course, yeah.
So there's no objections from me
a business
to that kind of software, but I just don't think it's going to be there for a long time.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
It isn't. It's more the pairing of the content, I think, that it's going to continue to struggle with. So let's say, okay, so if AI is out the picture, then our options are expensive chatting services or really VAs.
Even with Inflow, they've got an AI feature, and the feedback from our team hasn't been great, has it? So even using AI to connect PPV messages seems to be not there yet. Doesn't seem to be fluid enough to implement.
So if we do have the proposition then of expensive English, American, whatever it might be, chatting services.
Yeah.
Or we have African, Eastern European, Asian, cheap virtual assistants. How does a newbie come about deciding what makes most sense there?
Someone who's new to the business should go with a chatting agency. Yeah, I don't think if you've just started an agency, you've just signed your first creator. If you want to scale your business and have a big agency, the worst thing you can do is start training your own chatting team. It's going to be incredibly slow.
How could you train your own team?
Well, you wouldn't be able to, would you?
I actually think that neither of those options are a great starting point, you know. I actually think the best thing to do when you're starting is to chat yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to have the first-hand experience of what goes on. You're going to understand the shop floor transactions in your business model. It's like owning a shop and not understanding what people are buying.
Yeah.
So having first-hand experience on a multitude of accounts is a great way to set yourself up to run a proper chatting team. Whether it be that you then hire a chatting service, the knowledge that you've captured from trying to operate your own chat means that you can audit whoever you do pick to do your chatting much better.
Yeah.
If you hire a team that you've picked out yourself from whatever country, it helps you analyze and evaluate how good they are at their job, ways that you can improve their work. So I think actually the best thing to do as a newbie is to just chat yourself. until you're at a point where you physically can't grow because you're bound by chatting, in which case hire, okay, and then continue to innovate.
You need to understand how chatting works, for sure. That applies to every single agency owner out there. You don't know what you don't know, and the unknown unknowns are going to harm you if you do move straight into a chatting service, or you try and hire your own chatters. Neither of those options are going to work, like you say. So actually, I agree. I think that the first step should be understand the psychology of chatting, have some experience on the shop floor chatting yourself, to be in a better position to then offload to a chatting service, or if you wish to start building out your own chatting team.
Mm-hmm. So step one, as a new agency, is chat.
Yeah.
If we're at a point where you're now chatting all day, every day, and you can't grow the business anymore, then you need to ultimately delegate that. Where do you delegate it? You think chatting service first?
I think it's contextual based on what your goals are and what you're good at. If you want to have a multi-million-dollar per month agency,
mm-hmm.
you're going to get there much faster with a chatting service.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not interested in that and you'd rather have your own chatters, then it makes more sense to train your own team. But also, it depends on if your skill set is catered towards driving a lot of traffic. If you're a marketer, if you understand how to market and how to drive traffic, a chatting service is 100% the best way to go. If you are more of a chatter, if naturally you're better at chatting than you are at driving traffic, or even if you're better at recruitment, if you're better at onboarding creators faster, then that's going to be different.
It takes a lot to create a high pressure sales environment. You've got to be a real character to run that properly.
Yeah.
You've got to be harsh, but you've got to be fair. You've got to understand how to incentivize and motivate. There's a lot of skills that you need in order to successfully run that high pressure sales environment and run your own team. So for a lot of people, it is going to be easier to revert to a chatting service and ultimately let them take care of that and focus on what is actually going to grow the agency. There's a lot of guys out there that spend a lot of time focusing on the 1% on the chat side.
Yeah.
And I'm an advocate for that. You have to be. And we spend all day, every day working on those 1%, but that's because it's our job now. Whereas for a lot of guys that are in the infancy stages, you know, they're up to probably 200k a month, they're still growing. There's a lot there that a lot of time wasted spending that on the minor details and actually just offloading it and focusing on more creators, more traffic, more ideas, more innovations. That will grow the agency more. And the additional 5-10% you maybe pay for the best quality chatting services versus your budget VAs is going to come back to you, not just in service quality, creator retention, sales itself, but actually it's going to come back to you in the time that you now have from not hiring, firing, training, monitoring, rehiring new staff, but the time that you can invest into the marketing and recruitment.
So at what point would you recommend someone move? So let's say stage one, brand new agency, signed your first creator, you start chatting. We both agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
You need the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then you move step two to a chatting agency. In most cases, I would say, probably a majority. At what stage do you move from a chatting agency like ourselves to running your own chat team, and why is that? What are the metrics? What are the goals associated with that?
It's going to depend. It's going to depend massively on the traffic sources as well. Because if you are, like we've experienced, just a couple of guys running a great dating app operation, pulling yourself away from that to build a chat team nullifies the unique offerings that you have, and it actually hinders your growth. But if you're also a guy that's just running an agency of unicorns, good creators that have their own social media virality in their own right, then there is an argument to suggest that actually optimizing the chatting side of your business is a useful time spend for you. So it's going to depend massively, but ultimately I wouldn't even be looking at it until you're at 400, 500, 600k a month in gross revenues. When you are at that point, if you aren't required daily to drive your traffic, then yes, start spending the time.
Do you think the decision between native English speaking and VAs is easy at that point as well?
There's a use case for VAs, and it's mainly non-Western creators.
Yeah.
Because what we've noticed is our English chatters offer an ROI on English-speaking creators because of the representation aspect, the authenticity that it provides. But we've taken on a lot of Colombians or whatever via agencies on the chatting service that we can't offer as much value to versus VAs. Because even though we make more, we charge more, it kind of evens out. Very few people have an issue with poor English on a creator that they expect poor English on.
Yeah.
Even though it might be that the creator is Spanish and the virtual assistant is Filipino, the fact is they're both performing English poorly.
Yeah.
And it looks kind of like her, really. So representation-wise, you can kind of nail it with VAs in certain instances.
Yeah, for sure.
It's where you have either incredibly high product knowledge demanding creators like Fetish, or creators that are from Western English-speaking countries. Either of those use cases, you kind of need it, really, if you want to run the account optimally. You need Western-speaking chatters.
Yeah.
Can be American, can be English.
And not just from a perspective of the chats themselves, but also the creators.
Uh-huh.
If you try and put VAs, Filipinos, wherever they're from, on a Fetish account, you're going to have problems with the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Same way that if you put VAs on, an American creator's account, they're quite quickly going to pick up the issues and the flaws in what's going on.
A lot of people are quite simple in the way that they evaluate the contrast as well. They look at the surface. They say, oh yeah, well my VAs did a 1-8, but the English team did a 1-10. It charges way more, it's not worth it. Okay, well what we didn't see there was how many subs haven't kept Renew on because they aren't willing to buy into your subscribers, into your chatters' authenticity. What we didn't see there was how happy that the creator is in the way that she's represented, and therefore how many referrals you didn't get. A lot of it is stuff that isn't seen in plain sight, the representation aspect, and a lot of it is missed revenue that wouldn't be accounted for when we've got a Fetish creator that delivers a very specific product and an audience that expect the product knowledge to be high because she's the creator providing the service, and they don't have it. And I think, again, a lot of the guys that are evaluating this, just in the same way as not doing the true due diligence on the metrics, they aren't doing the due diligence on where the psychology comes from. They don't recognise that actually the reason why the VAs aren't going to perform on those accounts is because they grew up in a sheltered environment. Over in Asia, they don't have access to the sexual industry in the same way that we do growing up. You can log onto porn sites from a very young age in the West. You have to be accepting of everything in society here. But over there you don't. They're naturally very sheltered from family, in culture in general, in society. So it's only natural that they don't have the product knowledge that the Western teams would do.
It's short-sighted, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's short-sighted. It's a short-sighted approach that benefits you in the short term, but ultimately you are going to miss out on opportunity, missed revenue, referrals, client relations, that is going to cause a negative kickback at some stage. So if we've established that step 1, you chat yourself, get familiar. Step 2, you onboard, in most cases, a chatting service. Step 3, once you hit certain revenue goals and you want to continue to scale, you start training your own team once you've got the resources and the staff.
Or you specialise. And what I mean by that is, if you're just using any old chatting service, you start to pick out the best.
And then also, when you do get to the third stage where you are building out your own team, you will decide on native English or VAs based on where your clients, where your creators are based. Are they second or third world country? Are they native English themselves? Yes, no.
Listen to the creator. And what does she sound like? Does she sound English or does she sound partial English? Ask yourself the question and then hire the same thing.
Yeah.
It's that simple.